Dresbach.
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 Just like we are ready to rock.
Welcome back to the Excuse to Learn podcast. I am Joe Krasnowski, joined as always by Owen Murray. Today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Max Dresbach. He will give us an in-depth analysis and in-depth look at his experience covering sports journalism at The Ohio State University. Owen and I will touch on a little bit of the recent news in the journalism industry and give an in-depth pitch and look at some of the articles that we have coming up. I hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back to the Excuse to Learn podcast. Once again, I'm Owen Murray. This is Joe Krasnowski, and we're joined today by Max Dresbach out of The Ohio State University. Max is a senior over there in Ohio. He's worked for a ton of sports clubs already in his young career, and we're super excited to have him on. Max, what's up?
Hey, Owen. Hey, Joe. Super excited to be on. Love the Pacific Northwest. It's 6:30 over here and dark and not great. I'd love to be over there right now.
Hey, don't worry, it's dark and gloomy over here.
Yeah, dark and gloomy pretty much, but
We just got through an ice storm. I don't know if you heard.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I have a friend in Oregon who he's had a rough week.
Yeah.
So I met Max, last summer when we were both working in and around Ballard FC, which is a minor league soccer club up in the Seattle area where I'm from, where Max works in the summer. He started there as an intern. He was eventually a full-time employee. Ballard FC had an incredible year for, one for the history books. They went on to win the USL 2 championship in Seattle. Max, what was that like to work that season?
Just the 2 seasons I worked at Ballard FC, the journey's just been crazy. Starting out with a totally new team. I was going there, just like, all right, this is great. I am going to get my start in sports with a startup. This is like the perfect matchup here. And I don't think I quite expected or was quite prepared for the team to be quite as good as they are. The first year alone, they looked like one of the best teams in the league. And then the second year to top it all off, already winning it, it really was just an incredible journey to be on. And it was fast and, all gas, no brakes. And I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that was your first sports job. You went from Columbus, Ohio to Seattle, Washington, worked for a minor league sports club. Where did you figure that out?
Yeah, so there's a couple things in there. I knew I wanted to work in sports. I'd had some marketing gigs before, and that is my area of expertise. But I hadn't had any sports marketing gigs yet. A lot of them wanted to see a little bit of experience, most of the places in Ohio, before they brought you on. And this job got posted on LinkedIn, I want to say in April, which is pretty crazy because it starts in May. So it's clear they were looking for people around the Seattle area. And I applied anyways, interviewed, got the job in late April, and was like, all right, I need to be there by May 7th. And so it's like, you know what, this is great. I've visited Seattle, visited Oregon before. It was gorgeous. I still think Crater Lake's the most beautiful thing I've seen in my entire life. So we're gonna make this work. And I was just so passionate about working in sports. And awesome thing about Seattle is that you have to pay your interns in Seattle. A lot of these first sports jobs that you're gonna get are volunteer or unpaid. And so, yes, I had to go all the way out to Seattle for it, but I was actually getting paid, which isn't the case for a lot of people, especially for a USO2 intern.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a lot of great benefits to the position right there, and I just really wanted to be outside of Columbus. I'm from Columbus, needed a little break from it. Just a great decision in the long run, even if it scared me and my family trying to figure out an apartment, trying to figure out plane tickets in the span of 4 days to get over there in time.
What do you think the biggest takeaway you had from your experience there was, especially going into now?
Biggest takeaway I had is that just keep asking to do things. I came in and Camden, Sam, they just expected me to do the social media because that's what I had done previously. Believe it or not, I started out just with a doggy daycare. I was running their social media and did a good job there. But it was literally just social media content, nothing else. But I really love writing. I did a lot of journalism in my classes, and they were kind of going to handle that on their own. But I was like, I can do this. I can take some load off you guys. You guys are doing so much in the season right now. Ballard FC is a small, they got a small staff for as an organization total. And I was like, I can do this. I can help with media relations too. And I was just raising my hand as much as possible. And then they were like, yeah, okay, he actually can do this. And he's doing a good job at it. So we're going to just keep expanding his role. And yeah, so just continually asking to do things was my biggest takeaway that I've taken to my other positions.
Were you surprised by how much you were doing by the end of the summer?
Yes. Because it's not what was in the job going to ask, but I kind of figured I would kind of do these things once or twice, and then being able to fully take over it by the end, and then coming in next summer where it was, yes, I was still an intern, but by the end of that second summer, like when we came into Michigan to run that whole weekend of playoffs, Sam had to be an assistant coach because we couldn't take our whole coaching staff. So, Sam, who usually is at least involved in the marketing, was no longer involved in the marketing anymore. He's like, Max, you're just running it. You're running the whole show. Yeah. Sam's the owner. But he also coaches. He head coach at UPS, University of Puget Sound, and with the smaller staff we had for that weekend, he was fully dedicated to coaching that weekend. So Sam was like, yeah, Max, you've been doing all these things, just take over all the marketing things for that, to reach out to Mike on graphics, reach out to Blake, Marissa, Oliver, whatever you need, just run it through you. And so that was kind of a super validating moment for me. That was like, maybe it was surprising and I wasn't expecting to get there, but it worked, and it helped.
What did your final title end up being? Like, well, if you were going to summarize what you ended up doing, what would it be?
So if you look at my resume, I put down marketing, media relations, journalism, and
I see digital content too.
Some video editing. It was a lot in there. And when you came in thinking it was just going to be social media coordinator, and it really just was like marketing as a whole, everything that's involved in marketing, that's usually like a huge staff. It is definitely the longest thing on my resume. Whenever I'm applying to a job, it's like a 7-word main description of what I did there, where everything else is just like, digital marketing intern or something. I was like, no, I need to actually go into more detail here because I feel like there is more to share here. For example, I'm at the Blue Jackets right now, and it's just fan experience. That's my whole, it's not going anywhere else. It's so much bigger staff, so that's what you're focused on from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, and is the question I had, because what you hear people say about minor league teams is that, it's the community that's there, especially with Ballard. Like, that's what's driven them, the bridge keepers, everybody there. And so what's the kind of the difference going from Ballard, where it's a smaller group, but it's definitely the community that's there, to a group like the Blue Jackets, where this is NHL, this is big time?
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing about Ballard is that Ballard and Interbay Stadium, and I guess it'll be Memorial Stadium this summer, but that high school football, the whole community's going, like, oh, you're going to be there, well, I'm going to be there too, even if they don't care that much about the sport. But then they get so enthralled in it because they're so good. And you've got the beer garden, you've got that elevated experience, while also being close and kind of secluded and tucked away within that Inner Bay Ballard area. So it feels very, very community oriented. Whereas Nationwide Arena is a huge arena, hosts March Madness sometimes. It's built for both NHL and NBA. Even though it doesn't have an NBA team, that was built for both. So like just a gigantic stadium. But the one thing you'll learn too is that there's still a huge community factor in it. When we have our watch parties, we tap into the specific communities. You're always going to have the same type of people come to each watch party, but it's not going to be the same ones. And so like I now know, oh, all right, these 5 guys, these guys give me a little bridge keeper vibes. They are at every single Columbus watch party around here. And these are the ones I need to really be spending my time with, making sure that they feel like every single Blue Jackets event they go to, they're walking away happy because they are the initiators. They're the ones who got all of New Albany, which is a suburb from Columbus. They're the ones who got all of New Albany to come out for this one watch party. And then they'll do the same when we do one in a different suburb or a different part of the central Ohio area. If they have a good experience, they'll bring everybody with them. And it's different, but you still have to think of it as a community-oriented thing. And Columbus is a community-oriented city. I mean, they stopped their soccer team from going to Austin because the community is so passionate about sports. So it's definitely a place where you can still tap into that community. You just have to divide it more and find the key members. Whereas Ballard, it's all that inner community. They all know each other. So it's in some ways easier in that sense.
So how do you kind of get your foot in the door, like, of professional sports? Because, you know, you did some stuff at Ohio State, but you didn't really get your foot in the door until the Blue Jackets and Ballard FC. So how did you reach out to an NHL team? Was it like a LinkedIn or like a job posting, or did you just like say, hey, I'd love to work in professional sports. What can I do?
Yeah, so my first experience ever was with Ballard FC that first summer. Knowing I did that, I reached out to some of my professors at Ohio State. It's like, hey, I've working in sports now. Do you know any great ways to continue this when I'm here in Columbus? And there was an internship within the athletic department that really needed filled. And it was not really the type of thing I was looking to do, but it has really helped connection-wise. And so it's an event management internship with Ohio State. I'm still doing that internship. And actually tomorrow, I'm working the men's basketball game against Penn State. And it is a total different side. You get to see like a lot of the behind the scenes, what all goes into running an event for a huge athletic department like Ohio State University. And since you work every single possible sport throughout this internship, and then like once you get more experience, you'll actually kind of focus on one and take the reins on it. But when you start out, you just start working in all these different sports. So I worked in hockey enough and was like, hey, I know that we have a professional hockey team. Can you help me out? And then they were like, okay, these are the people you want to reach out to at the Blue Jackets. Saw something posted on Teamwork Online, saw the contact there, and I was like, okay, I know this contact is like a secondary connection of one of the guys I have on LinkedIn. There you go. And so I just applied to it, and then kind of just, you got to be careful with name drops and not seem like just a jerk when you're name dropping people, but like, in a natural way, you name drop the few people that they are going to know, and that takes your interview just a whole nother level, because I don't think I'm a particularly amazing public speaker, but with a few things like that, it can really help my case.
What's been your favorite experience with working at Ohio State and all the experiences that have come with that?
My favorite experience at Ohio State is just all the different sports that I otherwise probably wouldn't be exposed to. Like, Ohio State's known as a football school. They're known for, just being good at sports in general. But, I mean, Ohio State has the best synchronized swimming team in the country.
Really?
But I would have never gone to a synchronized swimming event. I go now and I'm like, holy crap, those girls are so good. They are so good. Like, and just like seeing this type of stuff, just day in and day out of these sports that you don't really think about, but because Ohio State, Ohio State's method to Title IX is not been to eliminate male sports. No, I believe. Does Oregon not have a men's soccer team?
It does have a
Is
men's
that
soccer
correct?
team.
No men's.
Yeah.
This is what I found out
So,
when I was coming here.
yeah, so that I would assume it's because of Title IX.
Okay, I'm not totally sure, but yeah, it makes sense.
And having even scholarships because Oregon obviously has football. Ohio State obviously also has football, but they haven't been getting rid of any sports. They've just added way more women's sports than what most colleges have, which has been amazing to see these sports that you otherwise wouldn't see. And so I would say my best experience was just going to that women's synchronized swim event, just like, all right, it's another event to tick off. It's going to be whatever. I've been to the swimming before. I know what this is. And no, it was like I was blown away. And so yeah, that's my most memorable event at Ohio State.
That's awesome.
All right, well, thanks, Max. We have one more thing that we really want to talk to you about, and so this is the Excuse to Learn podcast, and we started it kind of as a deal where we wanted to use a space like this and cameras like these. And so what's your biggest kind of piece of advice to just guys who are kind of, we're starting in sports, in journalism? Like, what is your excuse to learn, I guess? Like, why are you doing this, and what's your advice?
So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to use sports for good, and like my overall career goal, like the only two things I've been passionate about are nonprofit work and sports. So eventually I want to use my do CSR marketing for a sports team, and I want to work in the corporate social responsibility part of the marketing department, and that's eventually what I want to do. But in terms of my excuse to learn, like what bigger excuse, at least for me, do you have than just watching elite athletes do their thing? Like, yes, it might not be your dream role, but you just got a behind the scenes access look at Purdue playing the 16 seed and in the March Madness tournament at Columbus, because fortunately it's in Columbus, it means Ohio State's going to run it. And now I'm seeing Zach Edey play live, right? And it's not really, it wasn't a marketing role. It's not exactly what I wanted to do, but I now have that chance to do that. I had a behind the hoop seat for that, and I didn't pay for that. Not only that, like that's something you get paid for. So I mean, your biggest excuse to learn is this is something that people are paying a lot of money to do, and now you get to make it your job. So there's going to be hard nights. You have to work Friday nights when your friends are going out, but in the end, whenever you describe your job to one of your friends, it's almost always, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And how many jobs do you hear from your friends who might be, upperclassmen about to get a full-time job? It's like, yeah, I'm glad you got a full-time job, but you're thinking in your head, like, that sucks. Like, no, I do not want to do investment banking. That sucks. And so you will get all that so cool almost anytime you share your job. And that is about the biggest excuse to learn you can get.
Awesome.
Well, Max Dresbach, certified women's synchronized swimming fan.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Hopefully to see you in Seattle this summer, man.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for Max for coming on the podcast. He had some really awesome information about the whole experience as a whole. Just really thankful to have him on. Owen, bit of a segue here, but your thoughts on the recent news in the journalism industry with Sports Illustrated?
So, this morning it came out that Sports Illustrated is laying off a ton of its writers, which I think is a shame.
It's just so sad. Obviously, we were both Sports Illustrated kids. Some of the reasons we want to go into sports journalism, and now it's all gone. Just a really sad day for our industry as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading this one piece. It was probably Grant Wall. I have to assume, and it was about like a 17, 18-year-old Christian Pulisic. And I remember reading that. I'm like, wow, it's this like 5,000 word piece that's just extolling how terrible the U.S. men's national team was, and yet Pulisic was this one shining light, and I taped it up my reel, and so it's really sad to see kind of this magazine that really was, like just covers of that. I've seen them all over social media today. It's like there was these works of art, and when your team made the cover, it was like that was
That's the thing. No, for me in my room, I have when the Angels won the World Series. I have the Sports Illustrated from that, and it's such an iconic thing to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I think of USC back in the day. I think of LeBron. Like everything, when you've made it to Sports Illustrated, and it's such a shame that publication has gone down.
I remember I have the Sports Illustrated cover of Chris Bryant throwing that 2016 Game 7 against Cleveland.
Against Go Cubs Go, baby.
Go Cubs Go.
Go Cubs Go.
Go Cubs Go, baby. But so we never really talked about the John Strong episode.
Yeah.
Which, came out maybe a month ago. And so, I mean, I'd just love to kind of know what you took away from that.
Well, it was so awesome just being able to talk to somebody so important in that field.
Max, you're important too.
Max, you're important too. But this dude is the voice of the World Cup final. It was unbelievable. Like, it was just such a unbelievable experience to have him. He comes to class, and he's awesome. Just probably my favorite speaker of the entire series in class. And then we're able to interview him, and he's just awesome throughout. It was really incredible. What'd you think?
I mean, I really took it to heart when he said, "You guys are terrible at this."
Yeah, I mean, inspo for the future.
No, but he was genuinely an inspirational guy. It was great to talk to somebody who's really been through the SHAC program too.
Yeah, I've been here at Oregon.
And that's really his story. And to see somebody who's gone through that and now he's at the heights he is, it's cool.
I don't think there's anything higher than the World Cup final, man.
There's nothing better, man.
Nothing better. Maybe winning the World Series. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, that is, I think, all we have.
It's about all we have for this episode.
For Joe Krasnowski, I'm Owen Murray. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.